day, and our mind is not in control of the system. I think it's so important to understand that your mind, your consciousness, you, the person that's sat down in front of this YouTube video, or the person that's downloaded this podcast and is driving to whatever you're doing, you're not in charge of your body and brain in the way that you think you are. You are a product of it. So what you've done with your body and brain yesterday, what you do with your body and brain today, will affect how you feel and the person you are tomorrow in profound ways that you won't even realize, because you are a product of it, you know? So if you do all the positive well-being behaviors that we're going to talk about today, you will feel better tomorrow. If you don't, you won't. You will never know how the other version of yourself would have felt, because you are a product of those things. And it's really hard to get out of that. It's just why when you're in a low point, it's really hard to get out of it, because you are being projected by a low body and a low brain that is struggling you can't just generate a positive mind out of that situation. Hello, and welcome back to One Brain at a Time, where we are saving the world. One brain at a time. I'm Adam Wright, and I'm joined today, as always, by my fantastic colleague and co-primer program lead, Andy Feist. Hello, Andy. How are you?
Hello, my friend. Hello. Yeah, I'm very well, mate. I'm very well. Monday morning. Another week.
Another week beckons.
Yeah, it does. It does. Lots on this week. Very busy. We're all over the place, which is nice. There's a lot going on in our personal lives at the moment, which is exciting. Adam's on the move.
You're on the move?
I'll be on the move soon.
We're both on the move.
So,
everyone's
moving. Exciting stuff ahead, but work-wise, busy. Good busy. Let's do it, my friend. What we're doing today. Actually, before we begin that, forgive me, I've jumped the gun. I know you wanted an opportunity to brag about the football.
Well, I would be a fake fan if I didn't have to spend a second. 1 second, lads. 1 second. I just want to
get the scarf out, mate.
Got to get the scarf.
I know there's going to be a scarf, man.
It's been a sensational day. Sensational weekend for Brighton Hove Albion fans.
Just keep it on, man.
I can't, because it's going to... How's that sound, people? How's that sound? Probably not very good. Yeah, lovely.
You can move into ASMR if you want. That's
exactly.
Lovely.
No, don't throw in with a good time. I will. But I just want to point out that, we've had a bit of a ringer, Brighton fans, over the last year. Not because of anything we've done. I think we've had a pretty good season. But Crystal Palace, the enemy, won the FA Cup. Not good news. Okay? Good for football's sake. Probably good that a team that's not a Manchester team or Liverpool or Arsenal win the cup. That's always good. But it's not good that it's Crystal Palace. It's not. That's fine. It's fine. I'm just trying to get you in. I'm trying to get the hate up on your side as well. But then anyone who knows anything about football noticed that Macclesfield Town, which is a team in the 6th tier of English football, to the point where they're not professional footballers. These people are
North, and yeah.
National League North, so they are a league below even being a professional team. Like, they're 2 leagues below professional football. So these people play football part-time. Like, I think the captain of the team is a primary school teacher. So get us in that primary school. Hello, he's my hero. Beat Crystal Palace in the biggest upset in FA Cup history. And the next day, Brighton Hove Albion, yesterday, for listeners who are listening on Monday, beat Manchester United, knock them out of the cup. So it's just been a very, very, very good weekend for me. I've had a good time. So... up the Albion.
Well, I'm glad 50% of us is happy and enjoying their life.
Let's not talk about the Spurs result.
No. We'll move on. We'll talk about the fact that everyone's here to talk about.
Exactly. Some neuroscience stuff.
You should be very happy, man. It's a rarity in football where the stars align and all that glory comes all at once. So enjoy it, man. Revel in it. And
exactly. You've got to have the highs and the lows, man. In life and in football and in general. So yes,
man. You do.
And if there's any Palace fans listening, I'm sorry, but you do suck, unfortunately. So
we don't want to alienate the 2 listeners we have. So if one of you are Palace fans, we're sorry, man. But
no, I'm not. I'll back it. I mean, that's on you guys. But yes, okay. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favourite parts of kind of the work we do with people and what we do in schools, which is this idea of emergence. Okay, so let's run it back briefly. So when we talk to people about their brains, and if you are someone who's listened to the show before or worked with AYP before, you probably know a bit about what I'm going to talk about now. But the idea that we kind of think and conceptualize our brain when we're in primary school and stuff and in school, and if we don't look into the neuroscience stuff, that we're kind of like this big robot, like our body's a big robot and our brain is the controller of all of it, right? Like we're kind of in a cockpit of a plane, and we're, you know, moving, making the arms move, we're doing all this other stuff, but our brain is the kind of central hub of all that information, which is true, right? But what we need to understand is, and this has a lot of applications for how we live our lives and how we can change our habits and behaviors, is that we are actually not the brain bit. We are the mind, which is something that emerges from the brain, which is pretty nuts. So we always talk about in primary schools, in the same way that when you go to the cinema, you have a projector behind your head, which obviously is where the image that you're being watching, you know, the film you're watching gets projected from, and then the thing on the screen in front of you is the projected image. Our mind, which is kind of you, your consciousness in a very broad sense, is the image on the screen. The brain and the body that projects that mind is the projector and the process inside the projector, which is pretty nuts.
It is all very, very confusing. It is all roundabouts, lefts and rights, ups and downs. So I think it's very important today that we do speak about it, we get into it, because like you said, man, it's the whole part of the business, the whole reason we exist is the application, isn't it? It's the application of neuroscience that isn't done, it isn't spoken about, it isn't applied in real life settings. So the fact that we can try and sort of summarize the processes and relate them to hopefully accessible metaphors is something I think is quite good, man. So the idea that you are a product of what you do every single day is fundamental to what we do at the company and what we're going to speak about in terms of emergence today. But I just think, like, it's all right if you're listening and you're confused by this stuff, because man, it is dead confusing. Like you say that you are your brain and mind to project that. Oh, that's a difficult thing to try and wrap your flipping head around, man. So that's why, you know, you describe it so eloquently, but I just think it's okay to be confused by this stuff. And like I always say to my clients, man, like there's a lot of neuroscience we still don't understand. There's a lot of stuff that people, experts in this field, don't understand. So forgive yourself for struggling to wrap your head around it in 15 minutes. Like it's all right. But to try and understand it and trying to get to the bottom of it. And like you said, what we're doing here is bringing it into real life and bringing it to the metaphors that you just said there.
No,
It's
absolutely.
projection, you know.
Exactly right. And I think that specifically in terms of what you were saying about like not, this is why science is so good, right? This is why we're protectionists of science, like of neuroscience specifically, like because when the science changes, the version that, you know, what the most up-to-date research says, we change the model, we change how we understand things. Like we talked about neuroplasticity in a previous episode. You know, recently in scientific terms, we thought people's brains after 25 were just set and didn't continue changing. That is a fundamental, you know, lots of what we do in this company is basically talk about the idea that what you do with your brain, it changes it. If we didn't know that that happened after 25, then the program for over 25s would be very different than it is today. So one of the most beneficial things about the work we do and the neuroscience itself is that exactly what you said, of like, if we don't understand something, in a few years we will, very, very smart people will find the answer to those things, they'll test it, they'll research it, that's why it's so important. And then we'll change the things we talk about and the way we understand it. Like consciousness and the mind is one of those things that, you know, I'm not an expert on that stuff, but it's one of the things that, like, you know, prominent researchers like Anil Seth is speaking at our conference this year, is looking into these things to try and understand these answers now. And but the things that he's and the people, you know, other academics who've researched and stuff have discovered are really applicable to our lives, because part of what we want to talk about here is why on earth the body and brain projection of the mind matters, because it does matter and it does affect the way you live and it can change the way you live and the things you do every day. It's not just a cool thing to know to bring out at a party. Like, by the way, guys, body and brain projects the mind, man, and then like mic drop and leave. Like it's, you can actually like apply it to your life, and it's
at all those wonderful highbrow parties we go to.
I mean, that's where I'm at, man. That's what I'm gonna do on the weekends.
Yeah,
I'm just at highbrow parties. I've got my pinky up when I have my tea, and I'm going, well, the body and brain projects the mind, actually. But yes, okay.
Hey, man,
so
let's fit right in. Sorry, go on.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Appreciate that enormously. But so this concept, right, we're going to broadly call it emergence, which is the idea that your body and brain emerges. So your mind emerges from your body and brain. See, I keep stumbling over it. So the way that it manifests, let's just talk about a couple of specific ways that it manifests in this way, right? So it's like emotions, for example. We need to start thinking about, and we talked about this again in another episode, previous one, that emotions are kind of our body and brain's first reaction and our first pass at the world. And we're going to feel those emotions as an emergent property of the change that's happened to our body and brain, right? So let's run it like this. If Andy like walks into me, right, I'm going to feel my body is going to react to that first through pain receptors, through kind of, noticing that pain. And then that signal is going to be shot up to my brain. My brain is going to then kind of react to that, release, maybe release a bit of adrenaline into my system and kind of put me slightly into my fight, flight, freeze, my sympathetic nervous system response. And then what's happening above that, your mind kind of sitting on stilts above it, has interpreted that increase in adrenaline in the blood system, that pain reception, as maybe anger, as a bit of kind of confusion, a bit of sadness. And that can give us quite a visceral, fast response. But that's kind of why we kind of consciously react to something after our body's reacted to it. So if Andy bumped into me, I'm going to try and lash out immediately without even necessarily, I haven't chosen to do that. It's kind of an immediate reaction that my body's created because my mind is kind of the last part of the process that is actually kind of catching up to what's happened in that moment. And this applies to a bunch of our different emotions and a bunch of different, our thoughts and feelings, and understanding that the way we think and feel about things is often at the end of the process of what's happened. So often you'll be feeling something throughout the day, an emotional response, and it's because something's happened. Something's on your mind. Something's happened to your body, and it's affecting your mind without necessarily noticing that that's what's happening.
Massive, and I think that's so important to talk about when you talk about like therapy and therapeutic circles and processes. What you're saying there is that what you do potentially, if you look at it from a shorter term, is what you do in the morning. The things that happen to you in the morning, the first hour, 2 hours of the day, can directly have a positive or negative impact on how you operate later on in the day. Your ability
Sure.
to process that information and your ability to overcome it if it's negative, but to notice and accept it, that's where we try and sit. What got me thinking, if you're talking about that in terms of noticing, accepting, and understanding, and if we are constantly a product of what happens to us, it is so true to be said of people when you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, these people that look back at their childhoods, look back at their teenage years, your formative years, and struggle with it and find it difficult, find it too hard to look back on, or find it too difficult to even speak about. And that's because you have constantly been an emergent property of your upbringing, and if you haven't faced or tackled some of the challenges you had in those periods of time, you're going to be negatively impacted by it 20, 30, 40 years later. I know
Yes.
some prominent people, that have gone back to therapy in their later years, and my word, you are the amount of change I've seen is enormous, because you're starting to finally process, understand what happened to you, traumatic, not traumatic, whatever it was, and you're finally starting to understand that stuff. So it's up to you, it's up to us, it's up to everyone, individuals, to focus and work through that stuff straight away. In the short term, understand that you are emergent property of what happens to you, process it, understand it, accept it, deal with it. You know what I mean? Don't just shove it right down into the depths of your stomach. Like, work through this stuff, because otherwise you're going to be talking about it in therapy 20 years later. That's generally how I look at them things, man. So the challenge that we find, and come on, like, emergent property of our body and brain every single day. It's not your fault that these things happen to you, but it's up to you how you process and deal with it.
I think it's so important to understand that, like, lots of the ways the brain works, the process of it, like, it's not intuitively how you would think it happens, right? So for example, people feeling sad, angry, might not realize in those moments they feel sad and angry. They probably realize they don't feel happy and they're grumpy.
Yeah.
But it takes a level of kind of what we call metacognition, which is that you sit above your brain's process and have a look what's going on, to notice that you're even feeling sad in the first place, right? Like in that scenario I said, Andy jumped into me. Most people are probably not even noticing that there's been a change. Like, they were just having a nice day, and then suddenly they're quite angry, and they're kind of maybe a bit clammy. Their physical body's reacting to what's happened in a. They might not realize that's happened. It just happens because that's what the body and brain do, and your mind is the kind of third step of that process, and it's not the most important in those immediate reaction things because, And it's that stuff is like, it's so important that the first thing we do is try and notice that, try and investigate it. Because if we understand that our body and brain project our mind, and that we're kind of sitting on top of the system, and as you said, like what we do with our body and brain every day and what we did yesterday really affect the mind we're getting to live inside, we start to then change the behaviors that we exhibit every day to generate a more positive, a more capable mind every single day. But just before we get on to like talking about how we do that specifically, what you were saying about kind of emotional pain and not dealing with emotional pain is why, like, if you're having a bad time in, let's say, at home or in a relationship or something, you feel like you can't just lock into work or something, like it's sitting with you all the time. And it's because something's happening in your body and brain, and your mind is being affected by that fundamentally because your brain is trying to work it out. Your body is being affected, I don't know the exact processes in your body that would be happening in that situation, but like, your heart rate might have increased, stuff like that. And your mind is sitting on top of that, and it's affecting your whole body and your whole experience of the world in those moments. And you can't just, if you're having a stressful time at home before an exam, you can't just focus on the exam. You're probably still, your mind's going back to whatever's happening at home or whatever, that stuff as well. So understanding that the body and project the mind and what's happening to us profoundly affects the person we are every day, and the experience we're having of the world is so important, because it means that we can try and, as much as we can, investigate those feelings, notice them, and then try and challenge that as much as we can. And at least noticing that, oh, the reason I'm a bit off today is because this is happening. It doesn't change that thing that's happening, but it does mean that we feel a bit more, maybe a bit more forgiving to ourselves when we're struggling with something, and it's that is because our body and brain are projecting our mind every day, and our mind is not in control of the system. I think it's so important to understand that your mind, your consciousness, you, the person that's sat down in front of this YouTube video, or the person that's downloaded this podcast and is driving to whatever you're doing, you're not in charge of your body and brain in the way that you think you are. You are a product of it. So what you've done with your body and brain yesterday, what you do with your body and brain today, will affect how you feel and the person you are tomorrow in profound ways that you won't even realize, because you are a product of it. So if you do all the positive well-being behaviors we're going to talk about today, you will feel better tomorrow. If you don't, you won't. You will never know how the other version of yourself would have felt, because you are a product of those things. And it's really hard to get out of that. This is why when you're in a low point, it's really hard to get out of it, because you are being projected by a low body and a low brain that is struggling to you can't just generate a positive mind out of that situation.
No, so true, man. No, you're spot on, man. And it's when you talk about being metacognitive, to be metacognitive when you're feeling happy, you're feeling like things in your life are going well, is easy, man. Easy breezy. Yes, please. Like, you're able to do that because you haven't got clouded judgment. You're not in a negative space that you sort of sit in and just stay in. When you're feeling good, you're able to know and understand what's good. Well, this is going well at work. This is going well at my relationship. But to buy a house, whatever it is, you're feeling good, so you're able to be metacognitive. You're able to look inwardly more openly because you're happy to do that. It's not as challenging. It's not difficult. It doesn't bring up negative thoughts and feelings. The hardest bit is when you're in that low space, you're in that low mood. To be metacognitive and to look at those processes when you're feeling depressed, when you're feeling heavily anxious about stuff, when you and it's such a horrible cycle because, well, you're feeling down, so you're an emergent property of your body and your brain. So you feel down, and when you feel down, you don't want to go to the gym, you don't want to go for a run, you want to have a takeaway because you want that instant release of dopamine,
You might just sit and scroll on your
endorphins.
phone for a bit.
You might just sit on your scroll on your phone because that's the quickest, easiest way to get those feel good
Bit of
chemicals in the
dopamine,
brain
yeah.
to get released. To delay that again and to go back into the mindset of delayed gratification, and I'll do this now because I'll feel better for it later. When you feel low and you feel down, that's the hardest point to do that stuff. When you're feeling just like an absolute worm, you just feel like, I ain't gonna get out today. I'm not gonna go for a run. I'm not gonna go to the gym, man, because I just feel like horrible, man. So those things that can help you get out of it when you feel low, your ability to be metacognitive and to say to yourself, come on now, is limited, is hindered massively. Hence why we're going to speak about what we're going to speak about now, which is to force yourself almost to just be like, all right, you feel down, you've had 2, 3, 4 weeks and it's been horrible. You've had a horrible January, let's say. Get yourself doing the right things again. Force yourself, no matter how bad you feel, how low you feel. And I'll be real with you, like that's the sort of space I've been in and dipping and out my whole life. Was, do I feel good enough to do this stuff? No, so I won't. Right? It's only in the last sort of 3 years where I've just tried and tried, and sometimes I'm good at it, sometimes I'm not good at it, and that's fine. Understanding that you'll have periods where you're low and you can get yourself out of it, and understand that sometimes there are periods you're low and you can't, and it's really challenging. And that's the battle. That's the wrestling match you got to go through. But take it from me, man. You owe it to yourself to drag yourself to the gym, drag yourself on that run, drag yourself, go cycling, swimming, go see a mate for a coffee, go for a walk, get outside in nature, even when it's horrible. Chuck that poncho on. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to your brain. You owe it to your mind. You are a product of what you do. Do the right things. Look after yourself in the right way. Give yourself everything that you can control. Control it to the nth degree. Control it to have it in your favour. Because there are lots of things we can't control. So take those bits you can and run with them, and just do the right thing for you. You owe it to yourself. No one's going to come and save you in the most brutal way. No one's going to get you out of a dark place. And speak to people, communicate, be open, transparent. They're wonderful things. Hopefully, you've got a good social circle in your life that you can do that, a good family. But if you don't, you owe it to yourself, man. You owe it to yourself to get out of that dark place. So do the right things.
Exactly right. And I think it's such a crucial point. Like we talk all the time about, a kind of fundamental part of what we do is challenging maybe more negative feelings, and like you don't have to feel like this forever. You can challenge it. Obviously, you're going to feel sad sometimes. That's unavoidable, but you have to just kind of sit in it and bathe in it and wallow in it. But understanding that your body and brain protect the mind is fundamental to understanding why the doing something will change it. Like if you do
That's
something,
easy, isn't it? What you've just said there, it's easy. It's the easy thing to do. When you're feeling low, the easiest thing to do is stay in bed and not see your family at the weekend if you need to travel, like not see your pals. It's easy to say, "Nah, sorry, I'm just too busy."
yeah,
You make excuses all the time. You just say, "No, I'm not going to do that. I'm too busy. I'm too tired." Well, you have to force yourself. We feed off social energy. We feed of other people. So get yourself into a place where you can just drag yourself to that social event, drag yourself
exactly.
to that family
Yeah,
gathering, man, because you will bounce off them. You will just the sort of general mood and the brain processes and the chemicals that get released and the whole physiological changes when we surround ourselves with people, with sociable creatures, man. Get yourself out there. Don't just stay in
exactly.
bed. It's easy, man.
It's as simple as you could even define it as when the body and brain change. When something happens to the body and brain, it changes, and then the mind changes as a result of it. That change can be positive, and that change can be self-driven as well. The change can be really negative. Just to get all the spectrum in there. So
Yeah.
if something negative happens to you, your body and brain are going to react to that in a negative way, and of course that's going to massively affect your mind. But you have a certain amount of control, the mind, even though you're not in control of necessarily how all of your emotions and how you're feeling and where they're going to come and how they do. What you can do is you can choose to challenge those feelings by changing the situation your body and brain are in, by doing things with them. Then that will change the mind you get to live inside. And the most fundamental kind of ways that we talk about all the time is we talk about the 12 rocks of well-being. And you could probably get a little bingo card out for me and Andy, 12 rocks of well-being per episode, because we will mention it every single time, because it is so fundamentally important that people are doing this stuff every single day, because it basically runs on the principle that when your body and brain change, your mind changes. So and the fundamental understanding of emergence as the idea that what you did yesterday and what you do today will affect the person you are right now. Like if you, person listening to this, didn't get enough sleep last night, the science is extremely clear that if you did not get more than 6 hours sleep, you have less memory available the next day. No matter how hard you will it, no matter how hard you try, no matter how hard you strain and try your best, you're not going to remember as much today as you would have if you'd got more sleep last night. You are not going to, your attention is not as available. You haven't got as much attention available today. You haven't got as much mental bandwidth. You're not going to be as able to deal with challenging emotional situations as easily. And that's because, to talk about the body and brain change, the mind thing, that's the result you feel in your mind, right? You will have less, the kind of less emotional bandwidth than you might feel in your mind. Like I feel a bit stressed today. I'm a bit emotional. That's the kind of end result you're going to feel. But what's happening in your brain is basically when you, we'll go into sleep in another episode in more detail, but when you sleep or don't sleep, When you think in the day, your brain produces a bunch of kind of plaque, a bunch of gunk that can sit on top of the synapses in your neurons, which is where the information passes across. When you haven't had enough sleep, you haven't cleaned out those pieces of plaque, those synapses, as well as you could have if you had more time sleeping. So what's happening is the information in your brain or the synapses just not connecting as easily or as well as they would have done 24 hours earlier, or they might do 24 hours later, just because you haven't had enough sleep. But we feel that as tiredness. We feel that as anger. We feel that as sadness, as kind of, maybe a bit more lucidness, like we're a bit more struggling more. Because our body and brain project the mind. What's happening in the brain is there's gunk in the connections, which is making the connections not as strong, but how we feel is completely different. We feel tired. We feel like we can't pay attention today. We feel like we need to eat more food. It depends on the person. It changes day to day. But what's actually happening in the body and brain is different from the way we feel it. But it doesn't mean that that's to do with the fact that your mind is kind of interpreting a feeling, a way that synapses are firing, the amount of blood flowing through certain parts of your body, all as a certain reaction to the world, as a certain feeling, which is how you're then sitting in those results. This is really complicated stuff. Like, it is really confusing. But the simplest way to but that's why we've tried to distill it down into 12 rocks of well-being, right? So like, you don't have to understand all of that stuff. You don't have to know all of the stuff about NREM sleep and all the stuff about cerebral spinal fluid draining across the brain to clean it every night. All you need to do is get 8 hours sleep a night, and it is so important that you get 8 hours sleep a night. You just need to do it every night. Like, it is probably one of the most important. All the rocks are important, but one of the most important rocks, fundamentally, you just need to get more sleep every night, because it will fundamentally change how you feel every day. You will feel better if you sleep more. It's as simple as that, and same with all the rocks as well.
Don't listen to these people on TikTok, man. They're like, you got to get up at 3 in the morning. You got to go for a marathon before you eat breakfast. You got to hit the gym. You got to carry some logs, man. You ain't got to do none of that. Like, just chill out, man. On the old TikTok, like, these people, there's probably 0.001% of people that do that and that are highly successful. This isn't the norm. This isn't what you have to do to strive for greatness and success. You don't need to do that. You don't have to put your body through grueling amounts of pain and discomfort every single day in the pursuit of success. No, you do not.
Yeah.
You need to be in a nice warm bed for 8 hours to get your brain in the best place to work the next day. If you judge your success with muscles and money, then yeah, you look at these geezers and you're like, yeah, you are very successful. You have got muscles and you have got loads of money. Fine. But to project that onto the general population in terms of this is what you should be doing, this is how you should be living, is a falsehood, and it makes young teenage lads just absolutely just spinning with this is what I should be doing. I'm not doing it. I feel rubbish because I'm not doing that. No, man, you don't need to do that to live a happy, successful life. You don't need to make millions to be happy. You don't. And if that's what you want to do, great, pursue it. You don't have to put your body and your mind through horrendousness to get there. Adversity breeds success in some way, and I believe that it does. If you can overcome adversity and challenge, you give yourself a better chance to overcome any situation in your life. But that doesn't mean, sorry, go on, jump in, man.
Well, no, I was just going to say there's a balance to it, isn't it? Because I think that you're right. Like, lots of the rocks are slightly adverse, right? Like, would you rather stay in bed longer or go for a run? Like, get your 8 hours and then go for a run is better for you, but the run is an adversity, right? But there's a line where it's like, you're completely right, and just making things deliberately super hard for yourself in every single capacity of your life, not getting enough sleep, doing way too much exercise, all that stuff. It might work in the short term. You might feel quite good in the short term. Your brain is very good at adapting, but you're going to burn out. Maybe in a couple of months, maybe in a year, and then longer term, like, if you aren't getting enough sleep consistently over a long time, it's like having one cigarette probably isn't going to give you lung cancer, but having a pack a day for 30 odd years probably going to mean you're going to get lung cancer or some horrible adverse health condition. Not having enough sleep for a long period of your life, you might get dementia. There's loads of effects that, chronic heart conditions, stuff like that, because your body and brain are such a brilliant and effective machine that work together. But there's a bunch of processes you need to let happen every single day for it to work super effectively every single day. Like, if you want to be someone who's super successful, who hustles, who does all that stuff, yes, work hard, adversity, push yourself in difficult, grow yourself, step outside your comfort zone, all that stuff. But there's no point doing it beyond a kind of a beyond the pay or beyond a limit of like, I must be the hardest worker, I must get 2 hours sleep a night, because it's just going to affect your ability to actually be successful in that role. But also long term, like, It's just, it means that you're not going to have the capacity for as long a life to be successful in, but also it's going to mean you're hampering your ability to achieve those things if you're not taking care of yourself every single day. What we should be using these things to understand, the science to understand, this updated information to understand, is how we can change our own lives to fit our own routines, and how we can challenge ourselves in different ways, because the ways that I would challenge and progress my own life are different from even how Andy would challenge and progress his own life. But what we need to do is understand ourselves more. Like, this stuff is kind of fundamental and universal in a way. Like emergence, your brain, person listening to this, is projecting your mind right now, right? But the ways that you are going to be healthiest, the ways that you're going to live inside your happy and healthiest mind, is not the same ways as mine, you know? The fundamentals are the same. You need to get some exercise today. Like, you just do. You need to listen to some music today. But the music you're going to listen to make sure that you're living a good mind today is not the same as my music, because my music will be Bastille. Okay, if you don't like Bastille, then you're not going to probably live in a happy, healthy mind today if you listen to that. But I will. So it's understanding that there's a certain level of like, okay, this is what you need to do. You need to get more sleep. That's pretty universal, pretty simple. But the ways that we are all very different in the ways that we will feel the results of these positive behaviors and the results of this emergence. So we need to kind of investigate how we're feeling and investigate what works for us more, you know, and do the 12 rocks of well-being, but also find the ways that the 12 rocks of well-being work best for you, you know. So find the exercise that you love the most and that you get the most out of, that you stick with. Do that one, you know. Find the types of things you want to read that get the most out of you, stuff like that. So
my little cousin, man, he's just turned 15 and he's obsessed with rock climbing. That's
wow,
physical. That's an amazing thing for your rocks. But is that going to be a
literally,
general rule? Everyone out
for
there
your
go and
rocks
climb
and
some
climbing
rocks, man. Yeah, for real, man. Go and climb them rocks. No, it's not. I'm not going to say go and climb rocks. If you want to, amazing. But that's what Adam's saying. We all have differences. Like, yeah, we're all different. We all like different things, different music, different tastes. And that's the same with exercise. Going outside is going outside. The rock race say walk outside. I mean, I'm not sure how any of us can just
I
deviate.
know, but sure, but like going outside for people who live in London, for example, like it's
Yeah,
not as,
it's different.
it's
Yeah,
different.
for real.
And but
Yeah,
like,
you're
you know,
spot on.
emergence, like people's lives are completely different, right? So the mind
Yeah,
they're living inside is completely different. And even, you know, gets really complicated because like sadness, anger, all these emotions, all these negative emotions that we don't necessarily want to feel, they're different for everyone. And the reason that we're feeling it are different because the situations are completely different. So it's really hard to be really kind of universal and be like, this is the solution to this thing. To stop being angry, you must do this, because it's like, I don't know what your anger looks like. I don't know why you're angry, what's caused that anger. What I
yeah,
can tell you is that if you kind of notice the anger, be metacognitive about it, kind of investigate the cause of it, and then challenge that emotion to change, do something more positive with it than just sitting there seething, that will make you feel better. But I don't know the bunch of the answers to the kind of lead up
no,
to the question. But the fundamental understanding of body and brain protecting the mind can hopefully, if people take that into their lives and apply that to yourself today, if you have a bad moment later on, or you have a bad moment later in the week, or you have a happy moment later today, or a happy moment later in the week, what made me feel happy? I'm an emergent property, so something's happened to my body and brain here to change it. What is that thing? Can I kind of capitalize on that more? Can I change it? You know, that stuff is just turning to investigate yourself and give you an understanding of how you feel every day, and investigate your own understanding of yourself and your feelings. And hopefully it means that going forward, you'll have a better understanding of what makes you tick, what you need to work super effectively, understanding that your brain is, you are a product of your brain and your body, so you need to look after it every single day. Like we always use, I think a good way to end is to talk about a metaphor we always use in schools. We talk about like technology and using, like everyone knows you look after your kit, right? You need to look after it to get the most out of it, you know, like recording this on a laptop, like, you know, everyone's got a phone now. Like people could put cases on their phone, they charge them every night, they make sure that their phone is looked after in a way that lots of people don't look after their bodies and brains every single day. Like bodies obviously, like, you know, exercise and food and stuff like that, but you know, mind, talking, emotional agility, talking about your feelings, being kind, being grateful for things, listening to music, all these things are ways that we need to look after our body and brain in order to get the most out of it. If you have a 50% charged phone, you know that if you will it really, really hard, it's not going to fill up. You need to do a certain thing to fill the charge up again, which is plug it in, right? You are similar in the way that we don't need a physical charger to plug us in, but we need to get sleep every night. If you don't get sleep every night, you have less capacity, you know, in a battery sense, than you would have if you had more sleep. So think about yourself as a piece of kit, and we always talk about the brain as the most advanced processing device in the known universe. Like the thing you have in your head that you're listening to this podcast with is incredible. It is the most profoundly awesome thing ever made, ever evolved ever. It's just awesome, but you need to look after it to get the most out of it. And how you look after it, do the 12 rocks, but how you look after your brain is going to be different from how I love to look after my brain and how Andy looks after his. But we need to do that because it will fundamentally affect the way we live and the way we feel day to day.
So that wasn't so hard, was it? Easy. It's really easy to understand.
If you don't understand this at this point, like, honestly, what are you doing? No, it's very complicated, very confusing, and I think anyone who's like, I completely get that 100% is like, okay, well, from that explanation, maybe that's a lie.
Yeah. It's confusing. It's not false to say I don't fully understand it.
What the hell?
I know. You got to understand it at a very. If you simply understand it as you are a product of what you do and what happens to you.
That's it.
And you can control your reactions. Anyway, run with that knowledge. Run with that knowledge and use it.
You are not aware of a bunch of cognitive processes happening all the time because your mind is, run it back to the evolution thing, right? Why is a question someone might be asking. Why is it like this? Why are we not in control of all the systems? Think about how much effort it would be if your mind, which is you, had to control your breathing, control your blood pressure, control healing cuts and bruises, control growth.
Honestly, think about walking to the
exactly to the point of and that's a perfect example of things we are a kind of a tiny if our brain function is a pie chart, right, we are a tiny little segment of it because all of the things that our brain does for us every single day are not things we have to think about and do. Think about how much more effort it is when you have you ever had it where you realize you are breathing and you have to manually take control of breathing. You're like, and you have to focus on it and how much effort that is to keep thinking about. But then breathing is obviously something you've done your entire life. It's something you are doing right now. And you're probably not thinking about it apart from the fact that I just mentioned it. So now you're thinking about it. But it's something you do all the time and your brain does that all for you. If we were in charge of our brain, if we were actually in the cockpit of our little brain, we would have to do everything. We'd have to be manually in control of all of these processes all of the time. It would be exhausting. So no, it's far more evolutionarily advantageous for us to just focus on, let's think about where we can find dinner tonight, as opposed to time to release a bit of cortisol into the bloodstream now to make sure we can do this thing. Let's heal that cut over there. There's all this other stuff. So yeah. It's really complicated, but it's really cool. Every time I talk about it and I think about it, it's it's nuts, man. It's so cool. But once you understand it a bit, it does really work. On mornings when I don't exercise, I feel worse, and I know about this stuff. I need to exercise in the mornings because I feel better because I've exercised. And so yeah, apply this stuff to your day. Figure out look after your body and brain. Your mind will thank you. You will feel better every day. So,
spot on. Thank you very much. Cheers, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and if you have any questions about emergence or anything else neuroscience, shoot us an email. The email is now on the screen. Should be just here. But yes, thank you very much for listening, and we will see you all next Monday for another episode.
Good. See you later.
Guys. See you later.